Hello everybody, and it's a pleasure to be able to speak to you today about the master's thesis process. I'm Charlotte Walker and I was in the LFC 2018 intake and the Sustainable Business Management track, and I graduated in February this year, 2020. And I have since gone on to start my doctoral studies at Stockholm School of Economics, my PhD in business administration. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about the research topic. And so you can come at research from a different perspectives. Some people come from the phenomenon perspective, where maybe you're really interested in a particular idea that needs addressing. So for example, maybe you've been working somewhere and there's something that you're interested in and you'd really like to conduct research on that. And this is where I would recommend starting the process by conducting a literature review on this topic. Then you can find out what already exists in the literature and what types of things people are talking about, where is the discussion going. You may be interested in a particular theory. So for example, myself, I was interested in social constructionism. Maybe you would like to develop some theory. And a good place to start here is looking at different articles that already use this theory. And then you could look at the further research. There's always suggestions. If you're struggling for ideas, then this is something that you could do. And then you just have to think about the context. So where do you think it's interesting to study this theory? You could also be interested in a particular method or type of data. So maybe you're interested in something like observations or interviews. Likewise, you might be interested in data. For example, like the election results for a Trump and Biden election. Maybe this will be something that you're interested in, and then you can pose a particular question. So basically the question is in the middle and serves to guide you and connect these different parts together, which will lead you to the result. So the main aim is to try and complete the triangle, hopefully by the time you come to do your research proposal. So here's a little bit about what I did and what I would recommend not doing, which is going around in circles without asking for help. So I was interested in so many ideas and everything sounded really interesting to me. And I didn't really ask for help at all until I think I'd already produced 2 topic papers on different topics. And then I ended up finding the one that I wrote about. So just ask for help from somebody that you like or from a professor where you've enjoyed their lecture. And hopefully they'll be able to help you somewhat develop your ideas that you have. And most importantly, choose something you enjoy, especially if you are interested in doctoral research. Potentially you can find something that you enjoy now and it will actually help you in your future studies as well. Speaking from my recent experience, I just had my first paper published 3 days ago. And it was on a topic that I started in my thesis, my master's thesis. So it really helps if you are interested in developing into your doctoral studies, that you could start with something that you enjoy now so that you can work on it and use it in the future. So starting with a literature review is obviously a good place to begin. You can understand what already exists and how you can contribute. So another place you could start really is with your supervisor or professor, like I just mentioned, with a lecturer that you've really enjoyed or a topic you find really engaging. You could go to them and ask for some help or ask what topics you think would be interesting to explore. You could also start with the literature in terms of articles you enjoyed. Maybe you enjoyed reading about a theory or a particular phenomenon. This is a good place to start. And this way you could also use the citations from the article. So for example, it's really usual to use the snowballing technique in different methods actually, but in the literature review you can look at the citations that already exist and start there by reading what has been cited in the articles you enjoy. And this will lead you on to other literature and help you develop your ideas. What to look for, be specific or be overwhelmed. Yes, so when you go onto the library search, you can type in, for example, digitalization and organizations, and maybe you come up with 150,000 articles to read. Of course, this seems overwhelming and you don't really know what to do with it or where to begin. So here it's really good to learn how to use the library search properly. And here then you can learn how to try and limit the search to peer-reviewed articles or chapters the years that you're interested in, and also use the and or Boolean operator type things to make things reduced and easier for you to manage. The years I think is important actually, because lots of work obviously dates back a long time. So it could be interesting if you want to start with a literature review to see what's happening right now. You could look in recent years. So for example, right now in my work, I've limited my years from 2010 to present because it then cuts down what's happening and I can look at the most recent articles that have been produced. Yes, so what I did. I started off by finding 10 key articles that define my topic. So this was between 2010, 2019. And I created a table here. So you can see the literature or the authors, how my theory, how my concept was defined in the literature from different perspectives. So for my thesis, I wrote about retail digitalization from the managerial perspective. So here I was defining digitalization, and it was useful to see what components are included in the different concepts that people utilize in research. I was interested in the research design, how the phenomenon was problematized, and also the contribution that the article made. And this helped me just to really get a good grounding of what's happening and how people perceive the phenomenon. And then to further develop this idea, I found key themes in the literature to help situate my work. Here I developed or found the themes that emerged from different literature. And in this you can't see, but I have 3 themes that emerged that have been widely spoke about in this particular area. And I was interested in, or I found it interesting, the study participants. So for example, in the methods, it turned out that consumers and customers, in terms of like surveys and questionnaires and things like that, they were involved as the main source of data for the different articles. So here I managed to find a bit of a gap in that the perspective of the managers was really kind of diminished, or was a gap. They wasn't really there. So here at the very end, you can see I had the implications for the study of managerial framing. So I managed to find a gap by looking at the different themes, looking at the types of people included, and then I was able to narrow down what it means to me in my study. So the last box is kind of the most important one. What does this mean for me, and how do I utilize this information? I would really recommend this as an activity. It's something I'm doing now again in my doctorate, and I think it really helps to understand what's happening in the literature.